Hello everyone, welcome back to a live stream on the channel. And Europa League begins tonight, but Porto's campaign starts tomorrow. And it's been a great season so far, and surely that's got to continue for the Europa League. Weren't able to get an opposition expert or perspective on this, but regardless, we still got to invite George Andrade on, especially for a specific segment later, but we shall get to it in due course. George, welcome back.
Hey, Matt. Nice to be back. Nice to be back on. It's I think it's my third or fourth time here, so always lovely to chat with you guys, chat with you, Matt, as well about best club in your world, Porto.
Absolutely, and let's start with Porto, in fact, because last time you were on, we were talking about Farioli. He's made a great start, winning every game so far, and I keep saying this, that only one goal conceded in the whole campaign. But it's a new competition, and things may or may not be a bit different. But before we get into Porto's Europa League campaign, well, we know it's been great, but how do you see it from your perspective, George, Porto this season?
Yeah, it's been the best start we could possibly ever hope for, wasn't it? Because obviously I was confident about Farioli when he first came in, and I was happy he got appointed. I saw some potential looking at what he did with Ajax and the way he kind of turned a really awful Ajax team around, and I thought, okay, maybe could do something similar here. And wow, it's completely exceeded our expectations. I understand there's a lot of the season to go yet, but he's completely reinvigorated the team, and not only that, he's also been backed really well in the transfer window. The signings that we've made for Farioli, which is great credit to Village Boys as well. Froholtz, that completely is the engine of the team, makes the team tick. Alberto Costa, Gabri Vega came before Farioli, but yeah, Kivior as well. The team is the most balanced. I think it's the best board team on paper in terms of squad composition since the 2010-2011 season, when we had Falcon and we had Hulk and we had João Moutinho and Sapin and Guarin when we won the treble, when we won the Europa League and the league and the Portuguese Cup, if I'm not also mistaken, there as well. So I think this is the best balanced Porto team. It's got everything. It's got defensive solidity. It's got great attacking options as well. And yeah, it's been a great. I think he's completely transformed the mentality. We all know how we felt last year with Anselmi, who didn't have a clue what he was doing. We had Vitor Bruno. That there was. It just didn't ever feel like things were ever clicking. So what's a start? What's a start?
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose we can reflect on the last two games. First of which was one we were both at, and about 10 rows difference from each other. How did you feel about that win against Nacional? Wasn't as one-sided as we may have hoped, but still managed to get at the win. How did you feel about the game, having been there yourself?
Yeah, I think it was probably the poorest performance out of the entire season. I think most of the season, I feel like we've been looking so good in attack. For most of the games that we've played in, even the Spartan game, we've created loads of chances. We looked quite very fluid. Froholtz as well with Gabri Vega, with Samu, Pepe as well, which has new lease of life going forward. Even Borja Sainz look good in certain games. I think in most games we've done very well, but Nacional, I would say, is the one I could pick out and say I don't think we performed that well. That my main standout was more defensive performances in that game. It was more players like Kivio and Bednarek and Pablo Rosario. I think he's done very well. Especially of signing of 3.7 million he's come into that right back role and he's quite versatile and he's done very well. But in terms of attacking performances, Marcos Sainz I don't think was very good. Pepe had a chance in the end, but I don't think he I just don't think our attacking players really shone much. And Samuel obviously scored a penalty, but he didn't really get that much service for the whole game. I think the Nacional did well to kind of stunt us offensively going forward. They didn't really create much going forward themselves, but and we always look very solid. Even if we struggle to make chances, I think we're always going to be rock solid with those two centre backs as well, with Kivior now and Bednarek, with that Polish connection. But yeah, that was the poorest, I would say, out of the games I've seen. But it was great to watch it live, and shame we didn't get a chance to say hello. But but yeah, definitely it was good to see the Porto game. Obviously, I guess a funny side note is Mourinho was there getting a standing ovation, and then he goes to Benfica. But yeah, that's another story.
Indeed. That would have been another story I might have done had I not come home by then. But still, it would have been great to have had a goal at our end as well, and it should have happened in the last 25 minutes. But yeah, going off the most recent game, Rio Ave away. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, just super dominant. After the Nacional game, I was thinking, okay, will we running a crest of a wave, and will we see maybe his performances start to kind of dip a little bit? But no, we came back, I think, in the best fashion as well, and scoring goals that are quite almost. It's funny that we brought on a former Arsenal player. We're scoring like Arsenal-esque goals with the corners as well. And yeah, again, another great performance from Pablo Rosario, for Gabriel Vega as well, just completely control that game. I will say Frohold's probably been my favorite midfielder, but Gabriel Vega, I think, under Farioli, and he himself actually mentioned after the game how much all the players are enjoying playing under Farioli, and just dominant, just completely dominant. The fact that we were 2-0 up in the first 15 minutes, what was it, 30 minutes? And against UAV, we've actually struggled a lot against UAV in the past, couple of years. I went back to even the Sergio Conceição days, where sometimes going against teams like UAV away, we would all struggle with Sergio for a good few, especially in his latter years, where we would really struggle in these kind of games. And so to go and smash them away from home, which is UAV, which has, and there's been games where they've beaten us 3-1 and 3-0 before, so. It was a great win away, and it was just again the fact that we've not only conceded one game, so solid. Like, we don't concede any chances. I actually am very confident that maybe it's also a sign of the times with you're seeing how the top three are managing the transfer windows. We're buying 40 million players from Ukraine and 30 million players that were stars of the Club World Cup, and maybe it's also a sign of the gap between the top three and the rest of the league. But I'm very confident with the defense that we got. We're not going to concede many goals this season in the league. Maybe even Europa League as well, I'm hoping, but we'll get to that. But yeah, great win.
Indeed, and managed to show that also have a versatile way of scoring, and the upbeat feel factors great as well. As this is your first time on the channel since a ball was kicked at the start of the season, feel free to comment on any of the other games.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, a lot of, I would say, a lot of the other games have been very similar story to the UAV game as well. With our first game against again, when I was talking about a very refreshing thing, like when I was talking about UAV being a historically difficult game, again, Vitória Guimarães, very similar story. A game that we'll struggle in a lot the past few years under Anselmi, Vitor Brun, Conceição, especially. Vitória would always be a very tough game. We smashed that. I know they've lost a lot of players and they've basically sold up the whole team, but smashed them 3-0 away from home again, not giving anything at the back, just looking very fluid, just creating loads of chances, and back to seeing that high pressing, system that we were kind of that we haven't been seeing for the past year or so. That really fluid. He's kind of brought that Garra do Porto, that just high pressing, high intensity, creating loads of chances, especially at the Dragao. Great win as well away at Gil Vicente, who actually started off very well as well. Not dominated just destruction of Casapia, and then even the most important one was going over to Sporting, away from home. A team that I would say obviously are weakened by the losing of Jokeres, but they still kept Humans and. They still added some good players to their team this year. They added that Luis Suarez guy that's looked pretty all right, I would say, since he's come. And I know Sporting were always going to maybe struggle a little bit with losing such a generational striker in Jokeres, but it's always very tough to go to that other lad. And the fact that we went over there and beat them, I know it was quite it was quite, it was very 50-50. We've created lots of chances ourselves, but they also created lots of chances themselves. And it was a very cagey game. Obviously, William Gomes, who's unfortunately injured right now, scored a beautiful goal. And that's one I would say is I'm ashamed to lose him because since Farioli, I think he's really shone. And he's so young as well and so much potential. And one I think we could probably sell for 60, 70 million in a couple of years. But it's just completely, I think it's been 5-star. So far, and I'm really confident as well for the Salzburg game.
And that Sporting CP game Porto showed viability in the big games, which was is my biggest takeaway from that. You mentioned William Gomez. I think he was on the bench for the Rio Ave games, so he might.
Oh, right. My bad.
I thought he might still not be available to play, but I think he might. I think there's a good chance that he.
Yeah, he was on the bench. Yeah, you're right. Let me check if he might be.
So, but onto the Europa League itself. Of course, last season it didn't go so well. Porto did the bare minimum to get to the playoff knockout round. I think it was about 8 points in the whole competition, something along those lines. And then actually probably was something like low double figures, but still they come into this as stronger than before. Following that draw or at home to Roma and a loss away to them. And I think they're a contender. I think certainly they've got a good draw in this campaign where I definitely don't think they'll lose any of their own games. I think they should do fine in at least half of the away games as well. Nottingham Forest and maybe Utrecht will be tricky, but firstly, what do you think of Porto's draw?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think it's pretty all right. I would say. I think the main ones that I'll look at is going to Nottingham Forest away, and then again going to and then playing Rangers maybe, but. It's not the worst draw we could get. I know Utrecht's away could be potentially difficult and Nice as well, but I would say overall I think we could win out maybe even 6 or 7 of them. I'll be honest. I think the form that we're in, I think the teams that we got, Victoria Pleasant, Malmo, Nottingham Forest, Rangers. I think the teams that we got, it's not certainly many of them aren't. I don't think are contenders to win the Europa League. There's probably 3 or 4 teams that I would say. So I think other than not Forest, I think we could I could see us maybe winning 6 or 7 out of these eight fixtures. Just on the form that we're in, just on the strength of team. I personally think that Porto are in that top 3 to 4 teams in this entire Europa League competition. I'll put us alongside Roma, Forest, and Aston Villa as the 4 main teams that I look at when I say that will probably be the ones that either of them will win the competition. But so I'm actually really confident, and obviously I don't want to write any teams off, and obviously we thought this as well last year. We thought Bodo Glimt would be all right, and then we ended up tripping up there. So, but I think we can comfortably. I think we can win six out of these 8 fixtures. I would say I'm pretty confident that we can do that, and I think we can finish pretty high in that Europa League table. I think we could avoid going to the to the last. The last 32, and we can just go straight into that last 16.
Yeah, I'd agree as well. I'm thinking 5 to 6 wins. I'd probably say only 1 loss, 2 at the bare maximum. But if you saw my video to the viewers, if you haven't seen it, you can check out my full thoughts. But definitely a fixture list that I'm happy with, and starting with RB Salzburg away, which we'll get onto them pretty soon. But I'll give my prediction on how far I think Porto can go. I think they're contenders. For me, the other contenders, I'd say Aston Villa. I'd say Bologna's there as well. I think a bit under the radar, but I think they'll definitely challenge. Then I think Nottingham Forest could do it, and they did even appoint a Europa League winning manager from last season. So I'd probably not
true.
Probably not one of the favourites, but I think they're a solid contender. Lille maybe, and then you had Real Betis that got to the Conference League final. Or again, they're a maybe, and then of course there's the highest seeded team, Roma, who Porto went out to in the last campaign. I'm not necessarily so sure all that Roma will do it despite their seeding. Overall, I'm thinking I'll say semi-finals. Initially, I was going to say quarterfinals until today. I just think semi-finals because Porto's stronger than most of these teams here. They've already won away at a Champions League club. There's certainly a contender to win. The only thing I am doubting is that I think there might come a point in the season where Porto will have to prioritize the league and their F, or it might kind of not so much slip away, but I think put more eggs into that league basket. So roughly, I think going off rough estimation, I'll say semi-finals for Porto. How about you, George?
Yeah, that's a really good shout as well. I did miss some of the other teams like Betis as well, who obviously made a Conference League final and got Anthony and are a very good side. I'll be honest. I mean, obviously, yeah, I completely get everything you said. There, with Porto as well, we're not in a position where we're not in a position as we're not a Man City or a Liverpool that can have such strong strength and depth that they can go as far as in many competitions at once. Whereas obviously we will have to make a choice at a certain point which one we prioritize. However, I do think this is our best chance to win a European trophy in a long time. And next year we'll probably be in the Champions League, because I do think we probably will end up winning the league as well. So we're probably not going to win Champions League anytime soon. So I do think this is our best chance to win a trophy in a long that's been presented in a long time, that will be presented for the near future. I would be personally disappointed if we didn't make the final. I think for me, considering the teams that are in this competition, considering how well we started, and even considering how well or not well some of the favourites have started as well. Aston Villa, who got Unai Emery and are seen as the favourites, have started the league pretty poorly in the Premier League, and I know they'll probably will correct form And they in the Europa League, I can see them doing a great run. But I personally will be very disappointed if we didn't make the final. I think, especially when you consider the team that we have and also the players that we've been able to retain, it would all be this disservice to them and the service to the potential that this team could deliver if we didn't make the final. Because Sam Moore is probably going to go next year. Dio Costa is probably going to go next year. I don't know how long Alan Varela is going to be here for. I don't know. It's Froholt to keep playing. He's very new to the team, but if he keeps playing the way he's playing, I don't know how long he's going to be here for. So, we've got, especially where Porto as well. Where Porto we lose a lot of our best players every year because of the nature of the beast. With the Premier League money now these days, how they can just poach players from the Portuguese league and other leagues, and we have to make use of this opportunity. And I fully believe we're good enough to make the final. I would be disappointed if we didn't make the final, but I would understand it because we also have to make a choice about the league. And obviously the league comes first, but I would love to see us have a real go. I think we're good enough to make the final, but it just depends on, injuries as well, how things are towards obviously the latter stages of the season is quite brutal with rotation, injuries, and making choices. So it's tough. But I would love us to have a crack. I can see us making the final and winning it.
So yeah, as you just alluded to, you're predicting Porto to win the competition.
Yeah, I think personally, it comes back to all the things I've said of the strength of the team. I think this is the best Porto team. We've got a generational Porto keeper in Diogo Costa. Portugal's number one, a keeper that we're lucky to have him still at the club. We've got a fantastic striker in Samu, who also did great in the Europa League, scored a fantastic bicycle kick against Roma last season. So we've got that. We've got a great defense now. I think in Bednarek and Kivior. We've got Francisco Moro with Alberto Costa, who's still injured, but he's going to come back soon, hopefully. A great midfield now with Froholt, Gabi Vega, Alan Varela, Rodrigo Mora, who also is rotating in there. That starting 11 as well. Is also a very useful, generational talent, but a very great player to bring off the bench if games are a bit tight and we need someone to find that killer pass or find that moment of magic with a goal. So we've got such a balanced team, and we're very lucky that all these pieces have come together at the time that we have. We've got a great manager. I think we have everything. We have everything to win the competition, and we're lucky that the teams in this competition right now we're not facing the Bayern Munichs or Real Madrids or anything like that. We've got the biggest competition in this tournament. Like our teams is like an Aston Villa that haven't had the best of seasons, and I know there's Betis and Bologna who are very good as well, but I would fancy us against most of these teams in this competition. But then again, obviously, when you get to the final stages, it's not always, and you get to the knockout rounds, doesn't matter who's the best team on paper. Moment of concentration to change everything. Just tactics in that specific day can change everything. Players not performing to their best, so you have to be perfect to win a European competition. So, but I back our chances.
Yep. Very understandable. And if Porto do end up not necessarily walking the league, but being in a position where there's not much competition, then that boosts our chances in the continental competition as well. But let's have a look at the opposition perspective. Red Bull Salzburg, a team that used to dominate Austria. And then fairly recently, things started to go wrong for them. They started losing, I think, the last two league titles. In the Champions League, they didn't do so well, which I know included finishing very low, losing home games too. They also got to the Club World Cup because they were one of the next teams in line for based on the eligible criteria. Of course, to qualify for the Club World Cup, firstly, from UEFA, you had to win a Champions League, and then the remaining spots left were clubs that had appeared in the Champions League for 4 seasons in a row, and 2 per country, maybe unless that there was more than 2 Champions League winners per country. Certainly was the case in South America, but and possibly even CONCACAF as well had Leon not been had been found for their breaches, but yeah, they were after Benfica, Porto, a few others on that lower end that were a part of these 4 Champions League places in a row. Salzburg were there, and similarly to Porto, they picked up 4 points. They picked up 2 points in the group stage and then went out. It's actually a bit better than I expected, given that Al Hilal were a bit of a dark horse and they managed to get a draw against them. But it's not been going so well for them. Similar situation to Ajax before Farioli took over for them. The season currently, they're still in the Cup competition, having won in the first 2 rounds in the Austrian Cup. They were in contention to qualify for the Champions League, but lost home and away to Club Brugge in the 3rd qualifying round, following knocking out SK Brann, who are in this competition, the Europa League. And in the league, currently sitting in 4th place after 7 games. They've not actually. They failed to win their last 3 games, including 2 at home. And I did have a watch of their game, which was actually a big game. They played against Sturm Graz, and a team that's starting to establish themselves at the top of the table. I believe they won the last 2 Austrian Bundesliga games, but thankfully, the fact that they did play each other means it was a big game, and it's likely roundabout what we might see RB Salzburg play against us. Some takeaways. Well, there was a Sturm Graz won 2-0. There was a disallowed goal in the 5th minute. After that, Salzburg started to look better, even though Sturm Graz maybe you could say Sturm Graz were playing pragmatic. And then when the first goal went in for Sturm Graz, things started to look at Sturm Graz looked on top, and the red card that was picked up quite late in the first half affected Red Bull Salzburg. Poor defending for both goals. Definitely exploitable on the wide flanks. If that last game was anything to go by, and also the finishing from RB Salzburg was not good enough, especially in the second half. And one example of that was there was a 1-on-1 with I believe it was their number 9. I'll just have a look. I've got the squad in front. I think it was either Diabate or Onisiwo. He had a 1-on-1 chance in the 66th minute, and he shot it straight at the Sturm Graz keeper. I just mentioned the fullbacks can be exploited. Their closest chance to scoring was at the end when they had a long shot that went just wide of the post. So I haven't been impressed with RB Salzburg based on what I've seen. Players to look out for: Alexander Schlager, the goalkeeper. He has, I don't know if he still is, but he has been Austria's first choice goalkeeper recently. And before Euro 2024, he was meant to be that first choice keeper with an informed Austria team. However, injuries meant that Patrick Pence was the goal. But Schlager's one to, I think, is one of their best players. Petar Ratkov, Serbian striker, joint top scorer for RB Salzburg in the league. And then you also have got the Belgium striker wearing the number 11 shirt, Jorbi Vertessen,
Yeah.
who's top scorer in all competitions for RB Salzburg. George, have you got to see any of RB Salzburg this season? Got to what are your thoughts on them?
Yeah. So in terms of watching the game, so yeah, I've not seen any of their games, but I've looked at some of their results, and obviously, yeah, it's kind of, as you mentioned as well, it's kind of a bit of a crazy downfall. They're basically, Ajax for Fire in the sense that, yeah, they've been a team that, especially since the Red Bull takeover of them, they've been dominating the Austrian leagues. I remember when I was growing up, like there was, I think, Rapid Vienna were the kind of team on top in Austria, but then Red Bull Salzburg started kind of dominating for a long period of time. But then now they've fifth in their league. And then obviously to be fair, it's tight. Obviously they're 5-6 points below Rapid Vienna, but yeah, they're not look like they start well. I know that I think last season they also didn't do so well as well. They finished second, but I think they've had a bit of a fall off in the league. And they've got a couple of players that I recognise. There's a guy called Bishop that I think used to play for Brentford. I don't know how much he used to play for Brentford, but I know Vertessen as well from Union Berlin. But yeah, they've had a conveyor belt as well. Obviously, I know with Salzburg they've had a lot of conveyor belt players that sometimes would also get shipped off to RB Leipzig, which is a bit dubious in itself. You had Šeško that went from Salzburg to Leipzig as well. You've had a few players. I think Naby Keita, if I'm not mistaken, as well. You've had a few players that have made that move from Salzburg. They also had Haaland as well. Wang Hee-chan from Wolves. They've had some very good players come over their team. Szoboszlai, I'm pretty sure, did that same jump from Salzburg to Leipzig. I'm very confident for this game though. Especially look at their last result where they lost 2-0. I know there was a red card in there, but looking at some of the stats where Sturm Graz had basically 30 shots and looked like they dominate that game after what you said was the red card in the first half. But yeah, I'm very confident for this game. Obviously, with DOS, it's going also obviously, but obviously still a bit of trepidation because we're going into Austria away, and sometimes going and I think the atmosphere from what it looks like, it seems the atmosphere at Salzburg is pretty good. Austrian fans tend to make up a good atmosphere and they make a lot of noise. So sometimes obviously, and I don't think we played Salzburg really, or at least for a while. So going into this environment, playing that Salzburg away, I think will be tough in terms of the atmosphere, and and you never know what's going to happen in the European night. But I'm confident that we can. But I think we have to just rely on that defensive facility as well. We may because they're playing at home and because it's like that European first night European buzz, they might be up for it, and they might be up for it because they've lost their last home game and they might want to come out the traps. So the traps flying. So we have to be careful, and we can't, and especially a night like this. We've been in situations before where we've on the Sergio in the European nights. So remember that 4-0 defeat to Club Brugge, and we can become unstuck sometimes. In Europe, coming up against these teams, and especially in the away atmosphere. So, but we have to be defensively solid. I don't mind us just hitting them on the counter and just trying to control the game and scoring 1 or 2, close up shop, and just be defensively solid the whole game. I think I wouldn't mind for our first victory just being a bit of an ugly 1-0, 2-0 victory. Not many chances, but we hit them on the counter and just keep a clean sheet. Don't let them in.
Yeah, and another example of what you're saying in terms of like being careful about being overconfident. Arsenal in Sergio Conceição's last season, they'd come off the back of scoring 6 at Burnley, 5 at West Ham. It made definitely a number of Arsenal fans overconfident, and then I think they had at maximum about 2 shots on target, maybe even 1 or none, definitely minimum shots on target at most. And of course, Galeno scored that under goal. But yes, I definitely hear what you say, and it's definitely worked both ways as well. You have definitely given us a good idea on how this game could go in terms of the fact that Porto may need to be defensive in order to get this win. I do expect them to be dominant, but it's definitely strong in the midfield, given the individuals that got Froholt, Varela if he plays. There's even Eustachio, Vega, Mora, and then of course from what I've seen, it could maybe there was a tactical issue where RB Salzburg wanted to defend narrow against Sturm Graz, but seeing as that was a big game, I think Porto could, as I've said, can also cause a lot of trouble down the flanks. First Europa League night for RB Salzburg will definitely definitely give the fans and the players a buzz, and I think and therefore it's going to make it a layer harder for Porto, but they definitely got the tools to win the game. Any other thoughts before we go to the lineups?
Exactly. I'll be honest. Obviously, I would be very disappointed if we didn't come with a win. I still expect us to win the game. I would be disappointed with if we didn't win the game, but I would also understand that it's also going to be it's going to be very tough, because I just think that it's that first game as well. I remember when we played Porto the first game last year, it was very tough. Obviously, we lost 3-1 that game, pretty sure, and it could have been 5-1. It could have been 5 because we were terrible that game, and they had a red card as well. They absolutely dominated us completely, and I don't know how we scored 2 goals in that game, but yeah, I think this can be a tough game. I think I can see it's being a really tough 30 minutes. I can see because of that buzz. I can see because of that atmosphere. I think I can see us being under the cosh for the first 30 minutes. I think we will win the game, but I can see them dominating the ball for the first 30 minutes, going at us and getting that riled up from the fans and really trying to attack us and create chances. I can see it being a bit of a storm in those first minutes, but I think if we can weather that storm in the first 5 minutes, keep them out, don't concede anything, because if we can see the first goal, that can where problems start to happen when we get nervous. So don't keep them out the first 30 minutes. Go into the game in the second half, hit them on the counter. I think we should be fine.
Not much to couldn't really disagree with you with that. Just seeing I turned on the Red Star Celtic game about 6 minutes ago, so just to get a bit of an idea of what we're up against next week. But let's first have a look at the lineup for our RB Salzburg. We don't have any experts to really give us a good indication on the lineups themselves, but I'll read what how they lined up against Sturm Graz, which seemed to automatically refresh at a weird moment. Diabate was the player that got sent off, so he wouldn't have. It wouldn't have been him that had that one-on-one. I think it might have. I think it was Karim Anisawel, but could have been Baida. But how Salzburg lined up against Sturm Graz, they had Schlager in goal, S-Liner at right back with the two centre backs, Schuster and Rasmussen, Kratziger left back, pivot of Bidstrup and Diabate. Diabate is suspended in the league, so. And given that he was sent off quite early, which was the 22nd minute, I would expect him to start, play a full 90 minutes. You had a Rat in the front four. There was Rat cut off, the Serbian player I mentioned earlier. Yo, who I believe is the Japanese player, or could check Wikipedia. You had Kjærgaard, who I think is Danish, and then Vertesen up front. A Rat cut off and Vertesen were also subbed off, so I think they'll probably play A as well, even though they looked, even though collectively RB Salzburg weren't good enough in the attacking set plays last weekend. But I'm not sure on changes, but I would expect that would be the lineup would largely resemble what I have just mentioned. I don't have the device to screen share, but it was, as I mentioned, and I don't know if you can see it that clearly, but nonetheless, I would expect at least the majority of this team to play. Any disagreements on your end, or not really?
No, none for me. It's interesting, obviously, because with Salzburg, I'm not too familiar with too many of their players. I guess that Ratkov guy looks like he's in good form. I know Vertesen from in Berlin. I know there was that Bidstrup as well. That we've played Benford. I know there's that Karim Konate as well, but I don't know if you'll play because I know he wasn't on the bench last game. But that Karim Konate looks like I've heard a lot of people say good things about him, and he's one for the future. And he's very young, but looks like they've got a couple of problem players. I know there was that line. I think he played for Borussia Mönchengladbach, but they've looked like they've got a couple of problem players. But yeah, I can see that being what they go with as well. But I think I fully fancy us against them.
Good point on mentioning Konate. If he wasn't in the matchday squad, so if he's available, then he may potentially play. But let's get on to the Porto side of things. I can go first if you don't have a lineup ready. But what do you predict Porto's going to line up with?
Yeah, I think we're going to go with.
I'll also mention that Alberto Costa players unavailable: Alberto Costa, Nilhan Perez. I know from what I read, Nilhan Perez is expected in late July, and then Luke De Jong's also unavailable. There was another player as well. I'm trying to remember exactly who it was. Martin Fernandez, who's also expected to be out for a while, but that was my gaffe for not remembering that the injuries sooner. And Thomas Perez might be away on international duty with the youth tournament. Not too sure because I've seen some conflicting reports on that. But George, I think that's everything I've had to bring up. So, what do you think Porto's going to line up with?
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty much the same team that played against Hiwav. Now that some of our guys are back, Mulder's back because he was injured in the national game, and Zaidu was playing left back. So I think Mulder's back. So I think it's going to be the same team. I think it's going to be the Costa in goal, Rosario right back because of Albert Costa being away, injured. And to be fair, he's done a pretty good job. I think he's been quite impressive for me. He impressed me in the Sporting game, impressed me against Nacional, impressed me in the UAV game. So I think he's very good, and he scored as well against UAV. And it also, I guess, a threat now. I guess we know now he's a threat from corners, so that'll be good as well if we're under the cosh. Bednarek, Kivior, I think of the solidified centre backs. I know Nilhan Perez is injured, but regardless, I don't see Perpic or Perez really benching them for the foreseeable future. I think these are going to be our two guys at centre back. I think they're great. For Fassi Smolder as well, which is great. It's good to have him left back. He's a great offensive outlet as well because he contributes a lot for us going forward. I think, he's good on crosses, and I think he's a very good overlapping fullback. Obviously, defensively, I know he's not the best, but I think he's very good going forward, and he can also score a good odd goal hit there as well. I think it's going to be the same midfield three, which I think is our best. I love Rodrigo Mara, but if Gabi Vega's available, you got to go with him. Alain Vidal's available, got to go with him. Vitor Froholt is the guy. I think in saying that we didn't know who he was, this time last year, or even in May, or even the time we did the Club World Cup, we didn't know who Froholt was, but he's undroppable. He just makes the team tick. He's brings so much energy, and he's the engine of the team, I think. So I think we got to go with that Froholt, Varela, Gabi Vega midfield. And then that front three is going to be the same, I think, of Borja Sainz, Samu, and Pepe. Interesting, I was speaking to my brother as well, and he's not too convinced on Borja Sainz. So I would say, yeah, but I'll be honest, perhaps out of the signings that we've made, Sainz is the weakest. But yeah, I think it's going to be that front three of Pepe, Samu, and Borja. And I think Rodrigo Mara is the first sub. He's got to be the first sub, especially if it's a tight game and we need to unlock the defense. Got to bring him on to create some more magic. I wouldn't mind bringing him on at half time if we're struggling in the midfield, just to add that more creativity. But yeah, I think it's going to be the same team with who have. I can't see any real changes from there.
All right then. For me, I'm going to predict a bit of a rotated lineup, but these changes are with players that do directly compete with the starting 11 that we've had. Diogo Costa, of course, will start and goal. I can't see any other reason to go with going with Pablo Rosario at right back. Maybe Zaidu might go to right back for some of the game. It's worth mentioning that Bednarek, Kivia, and Francisco Mora all played full 90 minutes. Kivia was also signed with the left back idea in mind. Bednarek, I think, will start. I've actually gone with Perpic. I think I'm not too sure, but because Bednarek hasn't really put a foot wrong yet, but I think Perpich might get Etson to the side, and with the fixture congestion got coming up, I think this might be the best game for him to start. And the fact he came on against Sporting CP, I think kind of does suggest that he's ready. Well, it's kind of hard not to go with Kiviar, and considering that Francisco Mora played a full 90 minutes, I think he'll be benched. I'm going to go with a last second switch because I was going to say Zaidu Sanusi at left back, but thinking of actually, I will say Zaidu Sanusi at left back because thinking about that back four, it's got to be. It's quite a narrow. If Kiviar played there, it would be quite a narrow back four, but yeah, I think I'll just about say Zaidu as like a middle ground option. But Kiviar's definitely very close to being somewhere on that left half of the defense. Victor Froholt, I'm expecting him to play. And then I think Steven Eustáquio will get a start here. And I don't think Varela did get subbed off, but for a precaution. But I think he'll be fine for this game. But my reasoning is more he's suspended for this weekend. I don't know if that's going to go any further, but I think but the fact he's not going to be able to play a part next weekend, I think, will mean that he plays tomorrow night. And then someone, I don't know, I've got Rodrigo Mora in the team. I think he's definitely he's probably possibly the best example of someone who's just as good of a player who's not a regular first choice team as the player that's currently in his position, Gabri Veiga. And then I've predicted Gomez to start on the right because he's already proven that he can perform. But of course, I'll say Pepe if Gomez isn't fit enough. But Samu at striker and Sainz probably maybe Sainz, but I've actually gone with another new signing, one that's actually was announced a few days ago. Yan Aramo. Yeah, I think in the league it's definitely going to be hard for him to get into that side, but might be a bit. It might be stretching a bit with that one, but yeah, I've gone with a bit of a rotated lineup, but maybe apart from that at left-sided defense area, that it's changes that are close direct competition to the Porto team in the league. So yeah, for those watching on the replay, do give your thoughts. Let's go to predictions now. George, what are you thinking?
I'm personally thinking. I think it's I'm gonna go over 2-0 for Porto. I think a 2-0 win. I think it's kind of alluded to it earlier, but I think what's going to happen is it's going to be, as I was saying before, I think it's going to be a very tight 30 minutes. I think it's going to be quite rowdy atmosphere. I think the first 30 minutes I can actually see us being under the cosh a little bit. I don't think we're going to start right at the traps like we did against UAV. I think they're gonna come at us. I think they're going to be aggressive. I think they're going to press us in those first 30 minutes. That's why I think the concentration has to be on point, because I can also see it's been a situation where if we do concede that first goal, because it's that, a European night in Austria, cold climate in a rowdy atmosphere, I can see it's a situation if we can see that first goal and the crowd get up for it and the players feed off that the fans' energy in that first game, European night, first European night. I can see it getting potentially quite a tricky, sticky situation. So I think what we need to do is that ride out those first minutes. I can see it being very tough. I can see it's them creating a few chances in those first opening 30 minutes. But then I do think we will then grow into the game. I think we will struggle in that first 30 minutes, first half. I think we'll grow into the last 50 minutes of the first half, and I think second half very early will then adapt, maybe make a couple changes, and then I think he'll give a good halftime team talk, and then it will start to go into the game from there. But I can see it's being quite a cagey game, and I can see as you mentioned, I do think we could be quite dominant in the midfield. I do think it could be a case of, because of it's the first European night and it's such a tight and it's such a tricky atmosphere, I can see the games where we just have to maybe hit them on the break. I think we've been quite dominant in a lot of the games, and I think we will aim to try to control the possession. But I can see them controlling quite a bit of the ball. I can see them coming at us quite a bit in that first half. So I think I can see us. And I think one thing great about Fadi Ali is he has his way of playing, and he wants to control games. He wants to play with high possession, high energy, high pressing game. But if he feels that, I do feel like he's the kind of manager, if he feels that we are under caution, if he feels that we're suffering a bit in the game, he will then adapt and just try to make us defensively solid and give up and sacrifice a bit of that possession, sacrifice a bit of that control, just for keeping that defensive shape in order. So I think we will hit them on the break. I think we'll get. I don't think we're going to create a lot of chances. I think we'll hit them on the break. But I think Samuel will score. I can see Samuel score. I can see Pepe getting a goal as well. I think we're going to hit them on the fast. We got quite a lot of fast players, so I think we're going to hit them on the counter, and I think we'll get a couple of goals. I think it'll be 2-0.
Yeah, I think we've got the team to win 3 or 4-0, but and certainly Salzburg haven't shown promise as of late. But given that they're at home, it's given the occasion, I think I expect it'll take some time to get going, and I think that the Salzburg they'll be okay for certainly within the first half. I don't think that they have enough of a goal threat to trouble Porto enough, and I think Porto should definitely find some ways against a questionable defence, especially in the full-back areas. I'd maybe more so on the left-back position, but still, whilst I was considering a 3-0, I think I will go for a 2-0 victory. I think Salzburg will do okay within the first half, and I think Porto will get their first goal. Things will get easier by the time you get it to 2-0. I think they'll still have chances after that, but there won't be as much of a necessity to push on from getting another goal. Not so much a overly defensive and encouraging Salzburg to get back in the game, but I think Porto will come away with a win, and so yeah, I've gone for a 2-0. Final thing before we do put it to a close, because I'm not sure whether we'll get another chance to discuss this. What do you make of the fact that the Arouca game got postponed to Monday, and the fact that Porto are only going to have a few days of ease between playing in Europa and playing Red Star Belgrade.
Yeah, yeah. That's a great question. Yeah, that's definitely not ideal. I think,
But I think it got off that got utter leverage or whatever the right term is to their situation in the qualifiers of the Champions League.
yeah, definitely is, and yeah, it comes true because I guess even this before the Nacional game, there was some silliness about Nacional trying to postpone the game or get the game cancelled. So yeah, it's just funny that this is happening again, but it's yeah, it's definitely ideal, you know, and I do think we'll have to be careful with the rotation in that game because obviously it's going to be our second game. I know we'll be playing them at home, but going into Aroca away is still a tough game. You know, can still be a tough game as well for us. So the fact that we only get 2 days rest, I can hope it's not a step up for us, and it'll be interesting to see what we do, whether we prioritize, whether we put our starting 11 in that Aroca game. Because I'll guess, we'll, you know, how, as I mentioned, we'll be playing a strong team in this game tomorrow. I think we're going to have to sacrifice our starting 11 for one of those games, either Aroca or Red Star Belgrade, because we can't go full strength in both games. So we're going to have to do a lot of rotation. I would say, personally, I think I can see us beating Aroca anyway, and I just think we should just obviously still play strong team against Aroca, but have a bit of rotation there, and then come out with the starting 11 against Red Star Belgrade. But yeah, I hope it's not a cause for a slip up in that Belgrade game, and it's definitely not ideal. You know, usually Portuguese league games are on a Saturday or Sunday, and that would at least give better rest. But 3 days rest is nothing really. And yeah, European. I think the Europa League is probably the most grueling schedule and grueling fixture list, even more than Champions League because of where it's at on the calendar. And then we got and then right after the Red Star Belgrade, we got Benfica as well. So that's going to be very tough. It's going to be a very, very, very tough few days for us in that week. So yeah, I hope we don't drop any points in that week as well.
Indeed. I do know a Ruka journalist who's been on the channel once, and I know there's like a festival, that's some kind of festival that happens in the town around this weekend each year. So I can understand them not wanting to play the game on the weekend, but the problem's more or having to play the game on a Monday. And as opposed to another midweek slot that could have been available to us. But yeah, any final thoughts before we start to put things to a close within the stream?
Yeah, no, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting, Graham. I think, I think we, as I mentioned before, we just need to be. I think we need to focus on defensive facility for the first game or so, and then I think as we go in this Europa League campaign, then we can focus on trying to be a bit more expansive and trying to just kill games off and being quite and having being quite fun in terms of scoring lots of goals. But I think for this first game, I'm happy with a KG 2-0 win, or even if it was a 1-0, but preferably 2-0. I'm happy with a KG, a little, you know, counter-attacking KG 2-0 win, because, you know, it's going to be tough atmosphere, and we just need to be careful that it's not like another Club Brugge situation, because obviously a bit traumatized from that. But I think we'll win. I'm very confident for this Europa League game, very confident for this Europa League campaign as a whole. So fingers crossed we get the 3 points tomorrow, and for support.
Yeah, hopefully surely a win in and anyhow will do for us, and hopefully we come away with a fully fit squad as well, of the players that are still available. But yeah, kind of thinking about it. Actually, yeah, I was wondering about Aramo's inclusion for a Ruka, but Nonetheless, thanks for everyone that has been tuning, both on the live stream and the replay. Having checked earlier in the stream, there hasn't been any comments as of yet. Just having a look now. Oh yeah, we do have one comment here. Tita Ness, Man United fan, says hello. Apologies for being extremely late. Yeah, and that's okay. So the replay will be available to watch afterwards. But yeah, thanks for those that have tuned in and those who will watch afterwards. And do give your thoughts in the comments. But we're gonna leave it there. I may well do a live watch along for tomorrow. I haven't created a stream for it yet, but it's something I'm thinking of doing. But I'll certainly give a short reaction. The live Aruka previews, in doubt, I might end up doing a video for the Red Star R Belgrade game as well. Shorts reviews will follow those as well. But beginning of the month, after that Red Star R game, there'll be a live preview for the Benfica game, I was going to mention a term that may not be special, that's certainly a topic for another month. But we've got an exciting cast. Yeah, thanks to those who've been watching, and thanks George for coming on. You can find him on Twitter as well at George and Ad. But yeah, open for a win tomorrow, and see you guys in the next stream and other videos. And in the meantime, for Porto.